What's going on, everybody? It's great to see you all again. Now, we all know that person that when we spend a little bit of time with them, we feel like we have to recover for days because they just seem to drain the life and the energy out of us. And this kind of toxic behavior can be very, very common, and it can range from anything from someone who is a serial complainer to something far more serious, like someone who is emotionally manipulative or physically or verbally abusive. And it can be very common for highly sensitive people to find themselves in toxic environments. And that's sometimes because we're so empathetic very often, or we just naturally care or want to help. And unfortunately, because of that, we can be involved with some toxic people. So what do we do if we find ourselves in a situation that can get toxic? Well, in this video, that's exactly what we're going to discuss. Now, we can encounter toxic people in many different situations, whether it be our friends, our family, co-workers, or even our relationships. So having the skill set to be able to effectively deal with these people is not only good for us, and we will benefit, but also it'll benefit that person as well. It can potentially create a great amount of healing for them, because sometimes people are displaying toxic behaviors, but they may not be fully aware of it, right? So our ability to effectively bring it to their attention and to help them deal with the behavior is good for both us and them. So it creates an amazing win-win situation. So the first thing that we really want to do that is really important before really getting into a conversation with someone who is displaying these behaviors is to firstly prepare. Right, so there's a couple things that we really need to prepare here. It's so important to make sure that we ourselves are prepared. We want to make sure that we're prepared emotionally, right? It is absolutely useless if we go into this very emotionally charged or angry, because that is not conducive to having a good conversation. Our goal should be to have an honest, open conversation with this person coming from a place of genuine care and calm. So it's so important to make sure we are emotionally prepared. So you can do this by just making sure in a nice calm place and just think about certain things about this person that you genuinely like, and that will put you into a state where you feel that you're ready and you care for this person and you want to get the best outcome. Okay, so prepare yourself firstly. The second thing to prepare is to make sure that when you talk to this person about specific behaviors, you do just that. You be specific. Absolutely, at all costs. You want to avoid using generalizations, using words like always and never. You don't want to go up to this person and say, why are you always so negative? Or why are you never happy, right? These phrases are very just destructive, right? It puts that person on the defensive, because let's be honest, no one is always negative all the time, or no one is never happy any of the time, right? These are just not accurate, and that creates a pathway for an argument, and that really means that we lose the opportunity to have an open, honest, genuine conversation, right? So what you'll do is you prepare a very specific scenario. So let's just say you have a friend that has this tendency to take a joke too far. You know, sometimes having a bit of back and forth banter can be healthy and even build friendships, but when it goes too far, it's really not good. So let's say you have that scenario. When you're preparing in your mind, what you would say to your friend is you'd say, look, the other day when we're out with friends and we're joking back and forth, you said X, Y, and Z, and I just found that took it too far. And, you know, I really don't like that behavior. Can we speak about that, right? You have a very specific scenario that you give them, and what this does is it takes away anything that can be argued, right? And you're just talking about that specific thing, and it also means that they don't feel like they're getting attacked, all right? So step one, be prepared. Perfect. So once you're prepared, the second thing we want to do when we approach this person is to approach them differently to how we normally would. Right? So think about it. We all have patterns that we run, or patterns of behavior that we kind of do consistently. And so when you see someone who's acting out of character, for instance, it really grabs your attention, and you take note and you think, oh, what's happening? What's going on? And it's the same way in our relationships. We'll have patterns of communicating with each other that happen consistently. And when we're running these patterns, or when we, in this frame of reference, it doesn't really grab our attention. But if you come up to someone and you act completely differently to how you normally would, that really does grab your attention and has the chance of making an impact on them. So the best and the easiest way to do this is by how we lead into the conversation. So if you say to someone, hey, listen, man, look, I really care about our friendship, and sometimes I just feel it's not where I want it to be. Do you mind if we talk about that? Now, how often has someone said that to you? I take it not very often, if at all. This line or this kind of conversation is not something that we deal with on a consistent basis. And you can use that with a work colleague, you can use that with a friend, a family member, or a loved one, or a spouse, whatever the case may be. But that will instantly kind of grab their attention and make them go, oh, okay, absolutely. And that has more of an impact on them. And once you've done that, then you can lead into the specific example that you had prepared from step 1. The third step is you really want to show that you're committed, right? So you want to show this person that you genuinely do care and you genuinely are committed to building the relationship with them or to making the relationship better. So a great way to do this is to also offer to them something that you can work on as well. So you can say, look, I really do care and I really do want to make the best of our relationship. Is there something that I do that maybe bothers you or upsets you, because I really want to cut that behavior out? That way it gives them the opportunity to kind of work with you, and it feels like you're working on a solution together. Now you're not arguing, you're having a very good, very solid conversation. Another thing that you can do that I would really recommend to help reinforce this behavior is ask them permission to say, hey look, if you do slip up or whatever the case is, do you mind if I just gently remind you about what we discussed, maybe with a gentle nudge or whatever the case may be. And that way this reinforces this behavior, because when we're so used to doing some things, we can do it without thinking often, and that is so common. So just by a simple gentle nudge and they agreeing to that, it really helps them reinforce it and it helps strengthen the relationship as well. So let's just say you're with your friend again and he has a tendency to kind of complain a lot. And when he starts complaining, when it's safe and it doesn't really embarrass him, you can pull him aside and say, hey man, remember what we discussed the other day? I just wanted to remind you, right? Simple, easy, non-aggressive, non-invasive, and it helps them and it helps you, and they can do the same thing for you. So what you're doing is you're creating a solution together, all right? And that ultimately will benefit both of you no end. Now, some situations can be far more complicated than the situations that we've already discussed. Toxic behavior can get quite extreme. There's cases where, these can become emotionally manipulative if someone really starts gaslighting us, for example, or if people become emotionally or physically abusive. Now, these situations are far more complicated. There's far more at stake here. Now, I just want to say, if you find yourself in this kind of situation, look, I genuinely feel for you. This can be some of the most difficult, trying situations that we can face as humans. Now, take hope, this can get better, and following the first 3 steps can be absolutely useful even in these situations. So we'll still prepare ourselves for the conversation. We'll still make sure that we come from a place of genuine care. We would still prepare specific scenarios where this person has acted or behaved in a way that we just do not feel comfortable with or just do not agree with. We would still break the pattern by being very different in how we approach them, and we would still ask them if they're willing to commit as well. Now, instead of asking them, if we can nudge them when they do this kind of behavior, we might need to realize that we're not fully equipped to be able to help this kind of entrenched, deep behavior. We might need to ask them if they're willing to maybe go with you to therapy, for instance, to get a third party who is equipped, who can help. Very often you'll be surprised that the person might actually go for this. They might not necessarily go for this, but they might. So when we ask, we might need to get someone else involved that can help out. Now, if they do go for it, great, you guys are on a path to healing. But if they don't go through it, that's when we're going to go into our next step. Alright, our fourth and final step, this is more of a mindset. And this is probably the most difficult one to implement, but has the ultimate potential to create healing in not only yourself, but absolutely in that person as well. And that is this. You need to have a mindset and a willingness to separate yourself from that person. Alright, so as I said, this takes a lot of courage. It can be very difficult. Now, you don't have to separate yourself from them permanently, forever, but you do need to be willing to walk away. Now, as scary and as hard as this seems, and especially if this is someone that we really love, this is maybe a family member or a very close friend or whatever the circumstance may be, ultimately you will always be better off for doing so. You're not doing yourself any favors or any kindness, and you're certainly not doing that person any favors or any kindness by being loyal and accepting this behavior. that you absolutely do have the choice to be able to stay with that person and accept that behavior. The choice is yours. Not something that I would personally recommend, but I understand it's hard to do so. But if you do muster up the courage, and if you do stand up and you do leave, that is a massive signal to that person to show that you are serious about creating a happy relationship, and you are serious about your own happiness. And also that really reinforces within you just incredible amounts of self-respect, right? So be willing to walk away. Now, this can also be true for toxic workplaces as well. And, we might think to ourselves, I don't have another job lined up. I don't know what I'm going to do financially, and I might just stay until I find something better. But that is a trap that will keep you there far longer than you need. I've been in situations in workplaces that have been very toxic. And, I found myself coming home just stressed out and exhausted. And unfortunately, what happens is, when you're in this kind of environment, it comes out in other ways, and people who are really cared about and really loved, unfortunately, they would cop this because I wasn't in a good space mentally, and they had a hard time as well, and that's just not fair for them. So I did make the decision to leave, and I've just been so much better off for it. I'm better off emotionally, I'm better off physically, I'm better off financially, right? So leaving may seem scary at first, but ultimately it is so rewarding and it is so healing. So don't be afraid to leave if that's what it comes to. Okay, so those are the steps. That's what we're going to discuss. That's what we've discussed in this video today. Now, I hope those steps help, and I hope you go out and use them. But guys, if you enjoyed this video and if you like our channel, please subscribe. We produce content for highly sensitive people that can help in all sorts of areas of our lives, from our emotions and our personal development to how we interact with other people and relationships and recovery and all sorts of things, right? So please like and subscribe. We really appreciate the support, and we really appreciate you watching this video today, and I so look forward to seeing you all on the next one.